Just a little forward note, as a documentarian, you always struggle with how to start your film. Now, originally, I went around and got some on-the-street interviews about what people knew or didn't know about witches, but this isn't a film about ignorance or misunderstanding. It's meant to be a portrait of several real witches from different walks of life. So, instead of beginning with that cute idea, I decided we should just jump on in and get to know these real people. And we'll start that process a few hours southwest of where I grew up, in West Plains, Missouri, with the fine folks of White Raven Metaphysical Church.
You know where you need to go. Ruby, come on. Go on. Go on. Get going. Heard it in. Thank you, bird dog. Come on, Ruby.
We were working on this building, and when we got here, this was the old post office for the old town of Lebo, and the roof had been open for years, and the floor was rotted, and people would drive by because we were right on 142, and we get a lot of traffic on this road for the country, and because it's a paved road. And a couple of good old boys stopped by one day, and they're like, "So what are y'all doing here?" And, "Oh, we're a Wiccan church." "You're a witch church? You're witches?" "Well, yeah." And you get this like silence from them. And then it's like, "Oh, I see you're fixing the post office." "Yeah, we're fixing up the post office. We're going to make this into a church." "I thought you said you were witches." "Well, yeah. This is our witch church," I guess you would say. And they're like, "Witches have churches?" "Well, some do." "Well, what do you guys do in your church?" And we got to have this great conversation about what Wicca really is.
Now, your average Joe may only think of witches around Halloween, when they're pulling out their costumes and decorations. But Wicca is one of the fastest growing religions, and pagan elements are found throughout our modern society. Now, this film is not a history of witchcraft, nor is it an instruction manual on how to be a witch. So, if that's what you were hoping for, I'm sorry to disappoint you. But I, as the omnipresent narrator, will occasionally speak up and fill in some basic info here and there, just to make sure nobody gets totally lost along the way. Oh yeah, we're calling this film Enlightenment Spell. It's kind of adorable, right?
Oh, you don't take this out.
Yeah, I was wondering
what am I doing?
You're old and senile. Maybe just old, I don't know.
Believe it or not, yes, your people should know, there are a lot of Wiccan churches in the South. So far be it for the South to be thought of as being closed-minded and negative. There are more fully established Wiccan churches in Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Missouri, which is a border state. I know, gosh forbid that I should say that we're a southern state, because we're a border state, whatever that is. But the southern states have more fully sanctioned 501c3 Wiccan churches than any other part of the country. When we first got here, there was a huge stink in the West Plains area that Wicca has come. Some of the preconceived notions were that we were going to corrupt the morals of all their children, that we sacrificed animals, that we were Satan worshipers, that the entire community would be destroyed because God would come down and smite us, and they would get smitten too, because God is indiscriminate, which is kind of interesting. Magic follows science, and science follows magic. The major component of raising energy is friction. When you hold your hands to draw the fire, your hands get warm because that heat energy you bring toward yourself, not the other way around. Your hand is the key to that power. As a matter of fact, each element is represented on your hand. Spirit, air, fire, water, earth. Think about healing. Think about somebody who might be sick. And if you can't think of someone who's sick, then think about healing Mother Earth as Mother Earth begins to sleep, because we're getting all the harvest now, and so she's going to sleep. And so we need to help her so that in the spring, that she will come up again with all the pretty flowers and things that we need. All right, let's do it. Circle bright and circle light. Work our magic here tonight. Circle bright and circle light. Work our magic here tonight. Remember restraining friction. Circle light. Work our magic here tonight. Circle bright and circle light. Work our magic here tonight.
Now it would probably be helpful to define a few terms as best we can. Pagan is a generic term that covers a whole slew of practices and religions. Just as Christianity has Catholics and Baptists, Lutherans, and so on, pagan has countless belief systems under said umbrella term. But it's actually probably not like Christianity in that it has an even greater variety of different beliefs. Witchcraft is not really a religion in and of itself. Instead, it's a set of practices, skills, rituals, and so on that can be used in conjunction with a religion, or completely on their own. The craft is really just another way to say witchcraft and the practice of it. And yes, it's also that 90s movie that you may or may not have seen. Wicca is a nature-based modern religion stemming from pre-Christian beliefs and based on the work of Gerald Gardner beginning in 1951. Now, Wiccans tend to use witchcraft in their religious practices, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all Wiccans are witches, or that all witches are Wiccans. All caught up? Sort of? Alright, now we'll go spend some time with the Cornucopia Collective in Boston. Yes, this is the equivalent of the action shot.
Yeah. Can you fill in some music in the background?
Some explosions in the front, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Lasers. I want lasers.
Then you kind of like
I think we have a very distinct community here. I love the Boston pagan community. I think there's something to be said for the energy of the area that you're in. You know, we have the best of the intellectual world, and we have the best of the activist world, and we have the best of the spiritual world, all coming together in this amazing amalgam of ideas and flavors. You know, people here tend to not buy into things very easily. They question, they ponder, they think things through, they read, they want personal experiences with, they don't just buy wholesale. It's about really celebrating intersectionality and identities, and we're a very queer-centric community, we're a very diverse community, and we're open to everyone. I think of pagan as my religious affiliation, whereas witch is my magical affiliation, so to speak. I hate the term, you know, as we're talking about terminology, I hate the term natural born witch, but if there's no better term, I guess I was one. I found myself communicating with deities very early, having very powerful experiences with Persephone and Hecate. Like, I always joke, like, my Barbie dolls were my first coven. Literally, they had an altar and a book of shadows. I kid you not. I had no idea that those were things, but they had it. And I was like, I had no idea this was something real, that this was something people did. The number one thing that I'm really tired of is the people not fully comprehending how much you care about this. They can't take you seriously, so you can't take it seriously. I'm like, no, I've devoted 30 years of my life to this, but thanks. I take it very seriously. It's my heart and soul. It's what I live for. It feeds me.
When I originally started reaching out to people for this documentary, I started closer to my adopted home in Salt Lake City. Yes, the Mecca of Mormonism has plenty of pagans, Wiccans, and witches, and many of them come to Crone's Hollow, where we meet them as they make ready to move locations.
We have taken these down. One of these is going in the corner.
Well, or we would, however it works. I mean, it's not right on this, it's down a little bit.
Somebody asked me the other day, Aleister Crowley wrote the Book of the Dead.
Book of the Dead?
I said, no, he wrote the Book of the Law. And they said, the Book of the Law? I didn't know he was a gardener.
That's very funny.
The great occultist and gardener.
Salt Lake City was in desperate need of a community-centered store that offered items for people that they might need to use in their practice of craft. And that while we had some stores that had things, we didn't have a community center. And we felt it was important to have both together. And we started working toward that end.
It was obvious that there were people that had interest in pagan paths. And when you have interest in that, what do? You immediately go to the internet, or you go to someone else that you think may know something, and then a lot of misinformation happens, etc. And we wanted to find a place that people could gather and find information that they could build upon safely. And so that was part of it. Part of our mission is to create a safe space for people to follow a path of craft.
And where many different paths of craft could come together in one place and be communal. And for the most part, I think we've been pretty successful in providing that space because we have a variety of people that use our facilities, not only to purchase items that they may need, but to come and hold their rituals, come in and hold their moots where they sit and discuss different topics in an environment where they're not going to get beaten up for having a different idea than I've got. If you need to just snip the ID.
Not this power cord probe.
No, I know.
I'm down there.
That's great.
And I hear the dog barking over in one corner. So I go over there and look, and I kind of see him. So I reach in and grab hold, and I get a hold of some fur, and just as soon as I get a hold of it, I go, oh, this isn't wizard. And I pulled it out and threw it. And yes, indeed, it was the skunk.
Oh, I had skunks when I was young, when I was in junior high school. I lived in Venice, California, and I used to take it for walks. And the people, my neighbors, would be quite surprised to see a skunk on a leash, you know. And the streets are pretty narrow because they used to be canals. And we came close to having some car accidents as the skunk goes by. It was interesting.
Oh, by the horns of Baphomet! I got chewed out.
See, there's a bird.
No, I got chewed out at work one time for cussing. And I said, oh, Jesus Christ. And I said, don't take, why do you do that? Why do you curse my God? And I went, okay, I'll curse mine.
No such thing as a straight path in craft.
True.
It does this. And it's constantly moving. Crone's Hollow has been an amoeba since day one. Everything changes, the people change, the classes change, we change, our building has changed. It's constantly in a state of flux because once you stop growing and you stop moving, then you start dying. And that's what we definitely don't want to do.
Even when I was in the military, I believed that I could be cured. It's true. And then I went and bought a prostitute, and she just tried her best and just went, "Hon, you're gay." And I had to accept it because I had a professional opinion.
Okay. Okay.
Well, by the tits of Baphomet. That's why I like Baphomet. He's got so many.
different things.
Horns, hooves, tails, tits. The bodacious boobs of Baphomet.
There you go. You got it.
I'm perfectly all right with having my awesomeness documented. All carved and shaped.
It's called Seeker. And it's got tarot cards, runes, scrying mirror, handcrafted candles, pendulum, quartz amethyst, charcoal incense, and a brazier.
Nice.
Scrying mirror, pendulum, quartz amethyst, handcrafted candles, charcoal brazier.
Baby, it's cold outside.
That was probably
I'm sorry, I had a little spasm.
Many people that are involved in paths like this have, I guess, a genetic predisposition is a way to say that, because you have that particular DNA from wherever your family is from. So, are we born into it? Yes, in one sense. But we're also made, because many of us have gone through generations and generations of other spiritualities and somehow ended up back into this path.
At about the age of 7, my parents joined the Mormon church, and that was the spirituality that I followed for many, many years. And then when I was about 26, I woke up one morning and realized I didn't believe in any of it, and started looking for something else. And through certain twists and turns, and one thing led to another, to another, to another, I moved to Salt Lake, and I made a connection with a local store and realized that this was something, in reading about it and in things, doing some study on my part, it was something that sang to my soul. And it was something that answered all of the questions that I had. And it continues to do so.
Hello, pagans! We are very happy to be here today and to be able to present the opening ritual for you. Centering this ritual will be Rita, also one of the owners of Crone's Hollow and the crone of Crone's Hollow, as well as Ravenstone, one of the co-owners.
So, all of you who are new to the pagan community, come in close to me.
Brand new.
No, Pagan Pride is about community. It's about the pagans of Salt Lake City, pagans around the world, really, showing the rest of the community what paganism is about, that we're your neighbors, we're your friends, we're your school teachers, we're your policemen. Come in tight to me, and I want you to turn around and face out. Put your back to me.
You got your back.
All of the rest of you, I want you to form a circle around them. Okay.
Blessed be your crown of glory, hallowed be your path. Blessed be your crown of glory, hallowed be your path.
I can't hear you.
Blessed be your crown of glory, hallowed be your path. We are one. Your crown of glory, hallowed be your path.
Everybody stop. Everybody stop. Okay, what I really would like to hear at this point, you guys look at each other. These are people new to the community. This is our future. This is the people that we need to invest in, that we need to encourage. You guys, You are their mentors. Look at them. Are they not beautiful?
Yes.
Are they not beautiful?
A lot of witchcraft has to do with nature and the elements. And I have a lot of footage of nature, so let's chat about the elements for a quick second. The elements are seen as the building blocks of life itself: earth, air or wind, fire, and water. Earth, the rocks and the trees, the ground where we grow our food and build our cute little houses. Earth represents stability, prosperity, discipline, and abundance. Air, the breath in our lungs, the breeze blowing through the trees, the atmosphere that surrounds us always. Air represents knowledge, harmony, intellect, communication, and imagination. Fire! The heat from the sun, the light from the stars, and the energy of warmth. Fire represents passion, transformation, illumination, and enthusiasm. Water, the rivers, the rain, and the sea, one of the main sustainers of life. Water represents intuition, empathy, emotion, and sensitivity. Lastly, the spirit, the binding force between us and all the other elements. Notice you can find 5 points on a pentagram, not the sign of the devil, but instead a representation of earth, air, fire, water, and spirit, all connected within a circle.
So the woman, the guys that owned this in the early 1800s gave, or 1900s, sorry, they gave a quarter acre to the church. That used to be a Mormon church.
That building was a church?
It didn't look like that when it was a church.
Okay.
You know, that's not, I grew up with a Mormon background, and I was wrong all the time. Every time, whatever I did, you know, I was wrong up until the day she died. My mother wished I'd been a Mormon. She lamented the fact that I didn't stay Mormon. She never said anything about the accomplishments I'd made. I mean, you know, I was a drug addict. For one point, I was shooting crystal meth, intravenous crystal meth, living on the streets, and I've accomplished this. But, you know, my mother never said, "Look what you've done. That's amazing." It was, "I wish you were Mormon." And that sort of attitude carries over, not just Mormonism and my mother, but there are a lot of people whose attitude have that, is that you're not in lockstep with their beliefs, so you don't deserve to live.
What's this then?
Oh, this is the infamous Chapel of Chill.
Chapel of Chill, huh?
Yeah.
What's so chill about it?
Why I brought you.
Well, you have to go inside.
It's cool.
Surrealism. You might notice it because the sky is encased in pillars, and the landmass is floating between the southern hemisphere and the northern hemisphere. This is a kanji for shaman, and I need to get back to that. Then there's, of course, the just abstract expressionism, whichever way you want to look at it. I was raised Mormon, but I've been excommunicated. And then I'm gay, so...
all odds against you.
And I'm pagan, I'm an artist, and I'm pagan, and I'm gay. So, you know, it's 3 strikes pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and I've always been told, like, why don't you do nice things? What's nice things? Oh, you mean as opposed to these, you know, tortured souls and stuff? Yeah. Paint what you know.
So you said you had a little brother that was here for a while.
Yeah.
Is he Mormon?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, are you closer with him then?
No, his wife told me not to bother them.
What does he think?
He went along with it.
An asshole.
That's probably deserves a little bit walking thing. Okay, so the cairn is a cairn, and it's got ashes of various and sundry creatures. But that was built for a friend of mine. I built that specifically to put his ashes in. I built the house, and if you look at the house, the door faces east, but the fireplace is in the south. The water comes in from the west, and the hearth is in the north, and the north is the earth element. So there's nothing much more earth-like than the fact that you're mortal. And in the house, the earth is where you get fed, right? So the house is set up as a magical circle. And then there's a bigger magical circle on the yard. So this is the north part, and then there's a huge fire pit down there that's south. I was going to put a water feature over there, some sort, but
it's all right. The water comes from that way. That's close enough.
We haven't gotten that in yet.
And then the outhouse is there to create the wind.
The east. So, you know, this is where you go to think. That's east.
Beware the witch, because witches are in league with the devil. Oh wait, no, that's actually not right. This is something that basically every witch I've ever talked to is tired of hearing. The devil is a Christian notion, so most witches don't even believe in the devil, let alone worship him or have some secret pact. So, just to review, not the devil, and this is just a cat. Great.
It's a church, and it's communal living. We have chickens that we have for eggs. We also have rabbits that are for food. We have a horse, and she's mostly here for looks. And we've got gardens on top of gardens on top of gardens.
I wanted to do a descent in one of our rituals, and I was like, what a better way than to create a labyrinth. So I was like, so we're going to put in things that will be medicinal, edible, aromatic, visual. It'll touch every single scent. To a place of meditation, reflection, there's thyme, there's rosemary, moonflowers, daylilies. So you start out in the morning with the God form, and you end in the lunar plant night garden blooms. So you get the whole phase of God and Goddess in their lunar solar cycles.
It's very comfortable, very relaxed, and it's just, the energy of the place just feels welcoming. And I felt welcomed, and I felt an attachment to the people here.
Who is a very nice Christian, except she really isn't very nice. Don't mess with Phoebe's Jesus, she gets flustered easily. But if you've got a friend in Jesus, then you can befriend Phoebe. But if you breathe the word of Goddess or say Buddha is the best, she grows horns, her eyes turn red, and she will fight you to the death. But Phoebe's Jesus is all good, and if you dare to disagree, Phoebe's Jesus will come down and he will smack thee upside the head. But I am so confused, cause I thought Jesus was this dude who taught love and tolerance, unconditional, na-na-na-na-boo-boo, na-na-na-na-boo-boo.
Most of these people, and especially the locals that have been raised around here, they're good old farm boys. You know, they know and they respect the land. When we moved in, they seen us out here from morning till dark, taking 5 acres and chipping away piece by piece
and reintroducing things, and you can't beat a good neighbor. So, you know, then it was introducing, you know, and talking the land, you know, the native medicinals that are around here. Ozarks is great because we have such a range of medicinals and edibles out here. So then you get them talking about the persimmon trees that was at their parents' property, or the wild cherry trees, or, you know, the walnuts and all of that stuff. You got a similar ground.
That was funny, because he's like, I was just thinking about White Raven
Really?
and Lebo, and he's like, that's no coincidence that you just show up here.
Yeah.
And I was like, hi, welcome to the witch.
That's cool. I mean,
We have been, if not embraced as long-lost brothers by the community, at least we have been more than tolerated. We have a really good relationship with the Baptist church next door. We have great Bible discussions, and they're not here to evangelize us, and we're not here to evangelize them, which is the other thing that people were really concerned about in the beginning. And what's happened is that over time, as they realize that we're just people like them trying to make things better, that we have received incredible assistance, and we have helped others. During our festival, Three Gates Gathering, the Baptist church next door, that they overturned their tractor in their mowing, and they came over, and we sent 3 big burly pagan guys over there to pull it out, and there were some ramifications, and they weren't negative, they were positive. It was like, wow, you guys just helped us. I was like, well, yeah, we're neighbors. Oh, you're good neighbors, like we're good neighbors.
During the season of Halloween, people break out their green makeup, their fake noses, and their pointy hats. You can find cackling, electronic witchy stereotypes everywhere you turn. So why not use a Halloween convention as the backdrop for a better examination of who witches are? Shh, it's starting.
A witch is an ugly old woman with warts on her face, dressed all in black with a pointy hat, who rides a broomstick and performs evil spells. Right? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the 5th annual Which is Witch panel.
I was just curious, how did you guys get involved in your various types of witchcraft?
I felt like there was something more than what I was raised with. Therefore, I started doing some soul searching, some reading, some talking to other people outside of the norm for me, and found a community that was open arms, loving, very warm.
There is always that desire and that need to connect with the sacred land and with the spirits of ancestors, not only of the people, but of the land. And one of the things I have learned over many, many years of practicing is that there will be within you a need, whatever it is, a spiritual need to connect, and this is really simple, to connect with what you think is holy within yourself. And that can be spelled H-O-L-Y, sacred, or W-H-O-L-L-Y, to truly become yourself.
For me, this is not religion. This is a way of life. It's like a doctor goes to school and learns how to practice medicine. A blacksmith goes through years of apprenticeship, a journeyman becomes a master blacksmith. He learns a trade. He learns the techniques of working metal and working those kinds of things. And for me, witchcraft is the same type of pathway. It teaches me ways to live my life, teaches me how to become a better person, how to become responsible for the actions I take, and to hold my hand up if I have done something that's wrong and say, that was my fault. What can I do to make it better?
What are your guys' professions outside of witch?
I love that question. I think that's awesome. We're just like you. I am a library assistant and I do ghost tours.
For 30 years, I was a professional scenic painter, scenic artist.
I've been a medical transcriptionist for 35 years.
I was a legal secretary for Zions Bank.
I actually drive a school bus.
Who is the best witch here?
The nicest witch? That wouldn't be me.
All right, I will show you how this works. Okay, we are going to do a protection candle. Because that's always a good thing to do. So the first thing we do is we select a candle, and the color is kind of up to the person that the candle is being made for. Okay, we use Florida water to cleanse the candle. You know, the candle hasn't been used by anybody, but, you know, just by virtue of the fact it's in the store. Sometimes people will come in and they'll be in distress, and so they get psychic stink on it. The candle is now ready to be carved. You can use a variety of different symbols on it. In this particular case, we're going to put on a dragon. And then once we get whatever carving done on it that we're going to do, clean up the excess waxes as good as we can. And then we're going to anoint the candle. And for this one, I'm going to be using a Wittershins oil, because it is about decrease and protection. It's about the dark. It's about being hidden. And the reason we use glitter is because whenever you're doing a spell candle, what you're doing is you're inviting an energy or a spell or a manifestation to move from the other realm to here. One of the most commonly used portals is a mirror. And so what we're doing is we're putting thousands of little mirrors on here. And it makes it pretty. Okay, the candle is always personalized to the person that the spell is being done for, which is why there's a sigil of your name on it. And I'm going to give this candle to you. Well, actually, you're going to give me a coin for it. And there's a reason for that. It can be any coin as long as it's silver colored. And what that does is it puts the responsibility for the spell on you instead of me as the candle maker. There's a packet of herbs that goes with the candle, and it will have a variety of different things in it. Different spells for whatever you're trying to attain. This particular one has cat's claw in it, which is a protection herb. It has some dragon's blood. It has some gold metallic, and it has a few other secret things in it. Everything in the world, everything in the universe has its own vibration. And those vibrations either work with each other or work against each other. And being able to use your own vibration to impact that and to be able to change it and modify its progression or its wave is how we make those changes. And being responsible for it is, one of the things a lot of people struggle with. Witchcraft is the craft of being a witch. It's not about laying yourself down, in subservience to the gods. It's about being able to use what tools you have in an appropriate way to make the changes that you want to see made.
Well, I think witchcraft is its major underlying premise is to bring about change and evolution to our environment, to our personal environment, to the environment of the planet, to the environment of the universe. And you have to start with number one, which is yourself. Before you can make changes on a greater level, you have to make changes with yourself. And so it's an exploration of yourself, an exploration into why things work the way that they do, and making decisions and being responsible for the changes that you make.
So, I get so much out of the library.
It's true. Welcome, thank you. Question everything you're taught, question everything you read, question everything I say, figure out the truth for yourself. That is this path that there's many people out there who say they've got the right, they know this, they know that, I've been doing this, I've been doing that, and question them, just question them. So oftentimes you'll see witchcraft and Wicca intertwined. Wicca in itself is a religion. Witchcraft is more of a way of living, essentially. Many witches will never call themselves Wiccans. Many Wiccans will call themselves witches. That's okay. Both are equally correct. But just know that sometimes those two don't always mix. So let's talk some misconceptions.
Our dad told us not to bring anything home with us because he thinks it's working with the devil.
Tonight?
Yeah. He's like,
hit the
"Don't
floor
bring
of the water
anything
on the
back
way
with you."
out.
I'm like, Dad, it's not even that.
No, we're not invoking any demons tonight, so you're all set.
Conjuring.
I know. That's second class, come on.
Positive. I know.
Wicca does not seek members. We're not out proselytizing, we don't. You've got to come to us. You have to seek the path. You've got to get, for lack of a better word, we are in Utah. It's the calling. The calling. And you know it when you feel it. You just do. And then you start seeking, and then you go down that rabbit hole, and you dig, and you find more information. And that's the fun part. Now you can start making connections to this and that. And oh my gosh, Masons say so mote it be. Well, we say so mote it be. Yay! How awesome is that? So, Wicca is what you make it. There is no one true way. There is no prophet. There is no governing agency. There is no sacred texts. There's no sanctioned leaders. You get out of Wicca what you put into it. And no one can tell you your path is wrong. And vice versa, you do not have the right to tell anybody else that their path is wrong.
The pagan calendar, also known as the Wheel of the Year, contains several annual festivals, rituals, and equinoxes that correspond with the seasons, and thusly are reversed in the northern and southern hemispheres. Now, not all pagans celebrate all of these, and people celebrate them in different ways. Here's where I'm tempted to point out that Christian and more traditionally accepted holidays also follow these seasonal trends, and include several elements from their pre-Christian practices. But let's just move on. Into the season of Samhain.
For those of you who don't know, this is the Witch's New Year. Happy New Year! Traditionally, this is time of year when the veil is considered very thin between the land of the living and the land of the dead. And it's a call upon Hecate to help us with all of that. And it is Harvest Square, so you're going to hear weird stuff all around.
That's pretty perfect.
So,
I believe in humor as the greatest form of energy raising there is. I don't believe in everything needing to be absolutely solemn and serious. Like, it's just not my personality at all. There's this understanding that religion has to be serious. Maybe that's why people can't take witches seriously, because we're actually having fun. And if we're only raising serious, solemn energy, like, we're just creating more serious, solemn energy, which is fine, but we're also a joyous religion, which is one of the things I love about it. You know, we have entire festival days built around jumping around a maypole. But this stuff is fun. It's not about always having to be serious. It's about raising energy. It's about transforming energy. And I believe laughter is the best way to transform energy. If you're taking hurt and pain, and a lot of my ritual work is, you know, very deeply emotional and cathartic. you know, why wouldn't you want to transform that via something like humor? And for me, like, ritual is all about that. It's all about taking someone on this very interesting ride. It's like it has ebbs and flows, it has peaks, it has these cathartic moments, it has humor. And because I'm literally taking someone on a journey, and the end result should be them feeling good.
So first and foremost, we are going to invite you into the larger room where the temple space has already been prepared. It looks really cute, I have to say. And you will be invited to walk through a gate of sorts. Don't worry, I will be pointing a pointy thing at you, but I mean you no harm.
Our open Samhain definitely tends to bring the people out. It is our biggest ritual of the year. I think there's this interesting thing that goes on in our Western culture that when we are dealing with a death, especially if it's a family member, that we're just expected to permanently grieve and never recover from it. And that's not what Samhain is about. Samhain is about honoring that grief and honoring the person, both in their life and in their afterlife, and welcoming them back and having that moment. And for those people who can have that moment, it's very profound and it's beautiful and it's very eye-opening.
The veil is thin, and we stand at the sacred crossroads. The boundary between what once was and what will be. It is a time of reunion with our beloved dead, a time to reflect on the past and the loved ones we have lost. We stand on the knife edge of somber and joyous.
One of the symbols that is sacred to Hecate is the cord. And this cord is symbolic of uniting us with our beloved dead, uniting us as a circle, connecting us to the old year, and, because time is relevant to our circle, connecting us with the new year as well. So this cord represents a lot of different things. So as we're weaving the web, pour into your piece of the web any intentions you have for things that you want to be rid of in the old year, that we're cutting the cord, we're done with the old, these things need to stay in the past. Or intentions that you have for the new year. You're invited to do both. Also think of any cords that are symbolically uniting you with your beloved dead, with other people in your lives who are living, who are still on this side of the veil, and with other people in this community. We are the weavers.
We are the web. We are the magic. We are the thread. We are the weavers. We are the web. We are the magic. We are the thread. We are the weavers. We are the web. We are the magic. We are the thread. We are the weavers. We are the web. We are the magic. We are the thread. We are the weavers. We are the web.
The wheel of the year has turned. We stand in the new.
You have a kind of duality. You have receptive energy and you have projective energy. It's why that we like to have a priestess and a priest in a circle, to have that polarity out there. Not that it is, so now my Gardnerian roots come out. White Raven is for anyone who wants to explore their own spirituality in the way that they want to explore it. As long as it doesn't involve breaking the law dangerous experimentation, or sacrifice of anything other than their own time and effort. Wicca, when I realized that truly Wicca is about service, not about what I can get, but more about what we can do, that drew me. And then the more that I worked on that, we ended up realizing that 3 little words that I like to use in my radio show: honor, respect, and personal responsibility. Anything that teaches personal responsibility for your actions and the consequences of those actions, that was where I was like, aha, you mean I can be an adult? I'm responsible? Nobody can make me do anything. Nobody's telling me that I have to do something. That's why I ended up really sticking with this, because every other faith that I've been through has some aspect of something or someone's interpretation of what is divine is the right one. And it may be the right one for them, and I honor that and I respect that, but don't tell me what mine is, because I need to find that myself. If I happen to find it the same as yours, great, but if mine's different, it's not wrong. That's why I'm in Wicca.
You still get judged by preconceptions. You know, we all dance naked and have orgies and sacrifice, and that is not what we do at all. The truth of the matter is that all major religions have the same morals and ethics. Don't kill, don't steal, treat your neighbor the way that you want to be treated. These are just common, basic moral principles. I think the misconception is that we use multiple deific forms. And so, you know, with films and with media, the lore, the myths, you know, the whole witch trials, all of that stuff, they're ignorant. You can educate ignorant.
I used to wear a pentagram, and I had people comment on it, and I've had people commenting about burning witches, and yeah.
As I was growing up, I always knew that I was different, that I saw the world differently than most people, and that caused the typical teenage angst. I'm always alone, nobody loves me, forever alone. But as I became more comfortable with the possibility that I might be alone in this, I found other people that resonated with me and what I personally wanted for my path. And I found that at 15, and I stuck to it. I held on to it for dear life and wouldn't let go.
As a transgender person, it's been very accepting of me. I've never found anybody in the pagan community who didn't accept me as I was. I actually have a history of self-harming. And between the paganism and being able to accept myself as transgender, I was able to move out of that. And it's helped me find a lot of balance in my life, both with the transgender stuff and in general. I actually, about 10 years ago now, I went to I was inpatient in the hospital, and they were trying to help me, and we ended up doing a pagan ritual to help release the stuff that had built up from my past. And it was very helpful. My feathers, the reason I got those is the red feather The meaning of that is one who's been in battle and misses many battles. Now, I haven't been to war or anything like that, but my battles are internal and from my past. I had a lot of abuse in my history, and that's kind of where that is. The chain here, which is broken here, is about stopping the self-harming. This is body, mind, and spirit. This one is about the masks that we wear. And this piece here are basically my totem animals.
So who all we got in there?
We've got badger, panther, wolf, and raven.
It's looking to yourself and figuring out what resonates with you and harmonizing with what you consider the divine to be. Whether that's in a tree or in a particular set of stones. There is an aspect of nature in that for what I consider to be Wicca. But if that's not what resonates with a particular other person, then that's not what resonates with another particular person. It's just looking at your own path, really, and discovering what that is and walking it. And you don't have to call it Wicca. You can call it crystal paganism. You can call it whatever. It's not about the name. It's about the path.
We are a circle within a circle with no beginning and never ending.
Remember this as we go through this weekend, all of us together. If I as an individual grow, why would my faith not grow with it? If my faith is stagnant, then I'm stagnant. If I'm stagnant, then of course my faith is stagnant. Because since faith is inside first, then external. Even Carl Jung talks about that. Look at the Red Book, his Liber Novus, his 15-year structure where he came to grips with himself after leaving Freud. All of that is full of this recognition of the collective unconsciousness, the ego. All of these things are a function of learning that divine is here.
All right, we're winding down now. But one thing I continually find refreshing is the sense of humor and lack of stoic dogma among witches. And the Witches' High Tea back in Salt Lake City is a prime example of witches, Wiccans, pagans, and non-pagans all dressing up in their finest pointy hats and being classy together, all in the name of a good time. I mean, even I put on a pointy hat for this affair. That's me, by the way.
Okay, now, if you're in the back, try to be taller. Are you trying to hide? There you go. Smile, 1, 2, 3. I'll turn the camera off now. 1, 2, 3. Hey, that looks all right.
And one of the things I tell people that come into the store for the first time or are looking and be a part of something, I explain to them, if you want to learn more, you have to ask a question. You have to open a space to be able to hear an answer. And that very often, questions are the most important thing that you can develop and work with, because answers very often close doors.
If you're an artist, you see how the world is this creative blending of light and shadow. When you're a witch, you see the world in that way as well, but through the lens of magic. You don't just look at a tree, you see the energy that is there. You don't just look at a river, you know that there's energy there. You know, there's a way of looking at the world through that magical lens. And that to me is what witchcraft is. It is what being a witch is. It's not about donning a cape and having all the fancy tools. It is about a way of perceiving the world that says everything is sacred and that everything has a purpose and that we are on a greater spiritual journey.
The nature of humanity is not about strife. It's not about war. It's not about me versus you. It's not about your alphaism. It's not about your primal core. It's about how you live in the society that you create. Well, what kind of society do you want to create? I really believe that Wicca is stemming from deep within the primal core of humanity that truly wants to live in a peaceful society, not as sheeple, but as individuals who share a common interest for betterment for themselves and others.
If you just take off the prejudice and that lens, and you see all religion and spiritual practice as like trying to tap into some sort of awe-inspiring magical feeling, you see how common it is and how it is really the root of everything. It's why we're here. It's not to pay bills. You know, it's what everyone really is searching for. But I'm the crazy one for actually believing in it.
Well, there we have it. Don't worry, I'm not going to drone on and on. I think we got to hear some good conversations, and now hopefully you've learned a thing or two about some real witches. Take special note that there was no proselytizing, which I think is emblematic of the open and unrestricted attitude of most of the witches I've had the pleasure to know. Well, I guess that's really about it for now. I'll just leave this pentagram up here, and these shots of nature, so we can all take a breath and reflect back on all the good times we've had.